Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 209 Journey podcast. I'm your host, Luis Urbano. And before we get started with tonight's episode, I want to remind everyone, if you are not following the podcast yet, you can follow it on social media. Find it on Facebook, Twitter, and now Instagram at the 209 Journey. So please check it out and find out when I post new interviews here. Also, if you know anyone from the 209, or if you yourself are here from the 209, or know someone else who moved to the 209, then feel free to send me a message on one of those social media platforms and let me know. If you want to be on, generally, I don't really have a specific topic. I allow anyone from the area who has a story to tell to be on the show. So if you have a story that you'd like to tell everyone from the area here, then feel free to reach out and we'll see if we can get you scheduled here on the show. Also, if you could do me a favor and share this podcast with a friend, that would be amazing. Please help me grow this podcast that I've started here of the 209. And even if you have friends that aren't in the 209, feel free to share it with them as well. It's always really great when people outside of our area can learn a little bit more about the people from our area, because there are always a lot of interesting stories that haven't been told as much here in the area, or just even haven't been told at all. So I'm really excited to bring those stories to everyone's favorite podcast platform, so y'all can learn a little bit more about the 209 and some of the amazing people that we have here in the area. So let's get started with tonight's episode with this interview with Raul Ballesteros from Raul's Mexican Catering and Taqueria. So on tonight's podcast again, I'd like to welcome one of my former colleagues who owns a Mexican catering and taqueria business called Raul's Mexican Catering and Taqueria. The business has been around since the 1980s, and they are actually quite active on social media. So if you haven't followed them yet, go give them a follow on there. They have over 4,000 followers on Facebook, and they're always really active, always posting different pictures of different amazing foods. And I know I always get hungry when I see their posts. So if you want to be the same way, and if you want to actually go get some food, that is the place to be at. So welcome to a 209 Journey podcast, Raul. How's it going, man?
Hey, it's going good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Really excited to have you on. I know we've kind of been getting this interview worked on for quite a while now, but I think there's a lot of things that I never found out about you in terms of like your business as well. And I'm just really excited to hear those stories, because it's always inspirational when you hear of any business getting started, and especially in your case, being that you guys were around since the 80s. I mean, I can't wait to get into that topic and just learn more about that, and for our listeners to also get more of an understanding of the business as well. But before we get to that, I like to ask everyone, and I know in your case, you grew up in Merced, you were born there as well, and you kind of have been moving around from Merced to Atwater. But can you tell us more about what it was to grow up in the area and just your memories? I know you moved when you were 12, but kind of walk us through how it was back then.
Yeah. So I was born in Merced, and growing up, it would be elementary school years, going to first to fifth grade. Just growing up, it was mostly about going to school and family, right? We lived very close to my grandma, and to be exact, like about 2 blocks away. So we were always very, close to her. My mom used to take care of her quite a bit. So it was pretty much going to school, coming back, hanging out a little bit, my mom preparing dinner, and then taking a taquito to my grandma, right? So my sister and I would get on our bikes, hold on to the little plastic bag and, ride it to my grandma's house and set it up for her, because my grandma couldn't walk. So we pretty much had to set up her food and things like that, right? So we were very close to her, a pretty big family. My mom had about 14 brothers, and like 10 of those lived here in the area. So birthday parties for the cousins were pretty much like family reunions. Mm-hmm. We all used to get together and eat quite a bit and play around. There was quite a bit of cousins my age. And yeah, it was pretty fun. It was pretty fun growing up. just also just hanging out with my school friends. Football was always our thing. We actually used to get in trouble quite a bit by playing tackle football in school. We didn't really understand liability back then, right? But we tackled each other, but the recess, I guess you could call them teachers, would kind of take the ball away from us and tell us that we couldn't tackle each other because we were going to get hurt. But ever since then, really, really liked football. And on the weekends, every now and then I'd go visit my friends and we'd hang out, play on the street, right? Football, baseball, things like that. So yeah, just growing up in Merced, it was just pretty much school, family, friends. And when I was 9, I started playing football. So that's kind of how it went while I was here in Merced.
No, that's really nice. And, Merced has a lot of places, right? And I generally like to ask guests if you want to give any shout outs to spots that you remember, especially growing up there. Like, what were your like go-to places, and are they still around and whatnot?
Yeah. So, growing up, the ones that were specific to me, and there's some pretty awesome places, in Merced and around Merced. But growing up, it was about Applegate Park, just going to what we called, or what the community calls el Parque de los Changos. That's kind of like the name in Spanish for Applegate Park. And just going out there and being on the playground, the swings, having a little picnic, with the family. For some reason, I remember a lot of KFC, a lot of KFC buckets, and just kind of going to the park and setting up shop and having a little picnic, or just someone, barbecuing some chicken on the grill. The other place I'd say would have been Lake Yosemite, and that's actually the lake that's right by UC Merced. And just spending a lot of time there, with family. Again, cooking. We swam back then, and at the time, I think one of my uncles actually had a boat, so we'd get to kind of like take turns taking rides and stuff like that. But that's kind of how it went. Just Applegate Park, Lake Yosemite, and the house. That's kind of how my family rolled.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's really nice. I haven't been to that lake yet, but I feel like I need to check it out.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
I know you were telling me you moved to Texas when you were 12, and then you spent a couple of years over there, and then you end up coming back, right, and going between Merced and Atwater. Kind of what was the reasoning behind you kind of coming back over here, and how different was it like when you came back over here? Like, what were some of those observations you had?
Yeah, so I moved to Texas when I was 12. My parents had the idea of they've had the idea of having a restaurant for many years, but the opportunity came up with one of my uncles moving to Texas, and he said, pretty much there's this vacant space, and it's a good opportunity for you guys to start your restaurant, right? So my parents thought it was a good idea, and we headed over there in 1996. So at that point, I was 12, and yeah, that was middle school years. We stayed over there. I stayed over there for a total of 11 years. And pretty much it was my middle school years, my high school years, and my college years. Again, being from Texas, I played football. And that was pretty much, I guess you could say one of the highlights of my time in Texas was just playing football there and getting hurt and and having a great time doing it, And then when I moved back, my parents actually moved back in 2005, and I was over there for a couple of years finishing school, and then I decided to move back. I was pretty much over there on my own, and being Latino, just family always draws you, and I wanted to come to California. It was the coast, and things in Texas are dry and hot. And very far from the ocean. So I was like, I'm going to go back to California. And my friends were all, excited for me, but at the same time, they were kind of jealous that I was going to California. But no, it was family. I wanted to come back and be closer to family. And yeah, that's kind of how it went. When I came back, I was in my hometown because this is where I was born. But it was almost as if I was a stranger in my hometown because I didn't know anybody. I had been away, my middle school, high school, and college years. So the time in your life where you're building a network, connecting with people, developing friends and stuff. I did all that in Texas. So when I came back, I didn't know anybody, but I was actually to my advantage because I guess I was a little adventurous, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go out and meet people, and I started connecting with with the UC Merced community. I started connecting with the CSU Stanislaus community, and I would pretty much just drop by into the Latino Associated Students of UC Merced. So I kind of connected with that group and just drop in their meetings and just kind of introduce myself. I connected with the Chi Alpha community there in Stanislaus, and that's how I met people. And that's just I branched out and started meeting people, and it also it actually opened some pretty cool opportunities. Because I was able to do some pretty neat things through that. One of them, I've always been a guest speaker person. I like going and listening to people, speak. And I was able to listen to Michelle Obama when she did the commencement for the UC Merced graduation. And I was able to do that because I connected with the student body, right? Because they got me the hookup, because I think it was limited to family and friends. So someone had an extra ticket and they're like, hey, you want to come? I was like, of course. Also, I was able to listen to, I think his name is Jose Hernandez, the astronaut from Stockton. One of my friends, her family has a bakery here, right? And I met her at UC Merced, and she was going to deliver bread for the event, right? And she knew that I wanted to listen to this Jose speak, right? I wanted to hear his story, and she was like, "Well, come deliver bread with me." And like once we're there, we'll just sit in the audience and we can listen to him talk. I was able to make my way into that, right? By branching out, I was able to meet people and then just kind of do different activities. So that was fun. It was kind of scary at first because you walk into places and nobody. But at the same time, it was pretty cool because I got to meet some pretty cool people.
Well, yeah, that's really awesome. In fact, Jose Hernandez is one that I eventually am gonna have on here. I'm kind of working on. Hopefully, it happens this year, next year. But I had the chance to meet him in Stockton a couple of years ago too, and he's a great guy. So it would be really great to highlight his story here as well.
Yeah, his story's pretty cool. I still remember how he explained, like his experience, kind of like taking off and, just kind of like being under gravity still. And then how when he broke gravity, pretty much it was just like completely gone, whenever they broke that barrier. Yeah, it was pretty cool. His story was pretty cool.
So when you came back, you probably noticed that downtown changed a lot, right? I mean, I've been only a couple of times to Merced, but I can recall the first time I went to the downtown there and going back there, I think a couple of years ago, and just it looked a lot different. It just completely changed. It looks like there's more things going on, right? And I think you guys have a rooftop restaurant, right, that just opened recently, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if you.
I probably still have to check it out. I'm not really sure, to tell you the truth, but I know there's a lot of development going on. They've developed, they've renovated a lot. I know they renovated El Capitan Hotel. There's a lot of different restaurants that are opening. So definitely downtown is getting a revamp, and definitely different. Whenever I came back, it was different, but even now, it's even more different. A lot of different community events going on. I think just like 2 days ago, they hosted something they call El Mercado, and it's pretty much, I think it's a combination of arts and businesses, just kind of displaying what they do and things like that. So I think they're doing it every quarter. So I think the next one's going to be Cinco de Mayo. So you guys stay tuned.
Well,
or drop by, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. So stop by, check out all the things that they have. And, I'm really happy to see Merced growing a lot because, I mean, it's a big city, right? I mean, if we look at all the other ones, it's comparable in size to, other big cities as well. So I feel like you guys have always had that opportunity to have, even more things going on. And, I'm excited to see all the different land improvements and all the different things that they're going to be doing there. I know, off 99, I think they're supposed to be building a big shopping center. They have like they've had the sign there, right? But now it looks like, things are, just coming along, and it's great to see so much like, just commercial stuff going on around 99, and it's just going to drive more traffic down here. And anyone coming down from Southern California is now going to have, more spots to, just stop by, right? Versus just
Yeah.
like not having anything in the past. So it's great.
Yeah. No, it's definitely growing. Yeah. A lot of developments going on.
So I really want to know this story, like I said earlier too, but kind of walk us through like when your Catering Taqueria business got started back in the 80s, right? How all that went about, and then just, to the modern day and all that, just how it's kind of had an evolution, right? From being catering to taqueria to restaurant.
So, I guess you could say the story begins probably back in the 80s, whenever, probably like 1986. When my parents, would prepare tamales and tortas to sell. It was mostly to family and friends. In the early 90s, my parents kind of had this pattern of every Friday, right? They would sell tortas de milanesa de pollo, tortas de pierna, to, again, family and friends. But every Friday, my dad would, take his break around 10 o'clock. So whenever he would take his break, we would already be there waiting, with the tortas on Friday. And he would pretty much pick them up during his break and pretty much rush up and down the plant. He worked for a boat manufacturing plant. So pretty much just hustled his way up and down the plant and sold tortas. And we did that for years. That was like his little side hustle, selling tortas. And then they would sell tamales. I think we used to make those on Tuesdays. And again, to family and friends, doing tamalizas for anybody that wanted to do like a party and have tamales and atole and things like that. And then we do taquizas. I'd say ever since the 90s, we do it for family weddings, family friends, some of his friends we would do tacos for. Yeah, that's kind of how it went. And like I said earlier, in 96, one of my uncles moved to Texas, and he told them about an opportunity, right? Pretty much like a restaurant that was in place, and they were gonna hand it over. So my parents figured out a way to kind of come up with the money, make our move that way. And that was a struggle, because it was a different state. My parents were limited on the language, so they didn't really speak English. And we were all still very little, right? So we could offer very little help because we were going to school and stuff like that. My older sister was, I think, maybe 15. I was probably about 12, and my younger sister was about 8, right? So we were still going to school. So that business got started probably like in September of 1996. And probably about 3 months later, we had to close because it was just tough. It was pretty much my parents, a little help from family members and stuff like that. But it was, having a business was just very new to them, right? They knew they wanted to make, delicious food, but there's a whole lot more that goes with, like running a business. They were learning about it. So 3 months later, that one closed. And pretty much my dad was just working and, again, just doing the little side hustles here and there for tacos and things like that for friends in Texas. And then again in 2002, again, they tried again with another restaurant. This one was called El Palomino Restaurant and Taqueria. We opened that one in 2002, and we had that one for about 3 years. And that's actually where my sisters and I were a little bit older, and we learned a lot about business there, right? Because again, my parents were limited on the language, and it was them and us, like pretty much translating with the landlord, negotiating with the landlord. It was us helping customers, it was us taking the complaints. It was us getting the angry customers. It was us serving the customers, and my parents were cooking in the background, right? So that was a very good experience. We actually have like this little inside joke that says that my younger sister is the youngest manager ever, because she was like about 12 years old and she would handle the front, right? Like she would be running the front at 12 years old. So we still just kind of give her that title, like she's the youngest manager ever, because every now and then I'd have to be out because of like football, right? And then my older sister was out because I think she was starting to work. So sometimes my younger sister had to hold it down in the restaurant, like on the weekend. So that's how it went for that one. Then my dad ended up moving back to California. My parents and my sisters, they moved back to California in 2005. So that one closed down because they were moving back. We never got it to where my dad could stop working. So my dad, stopped working for the company in Texas and moved back to California. So we ended up moving. They ended up moving back. I stayed in Texas a couple years finishing school, and he came back over here, and again he was still working in boat manufacturing. But then the 2008 recession hit, and boat manufacturing took a dive. Ski boats are a luxury item. They weren't really necessary. Productions dipped, and pretty much my dad ended up, being unemployed. So what he started doing, he started doing breakfast burritos. He started what I call his burrito route, right? He started hitting up, different businesses, selling breakfast burritos. He developed his route, and he had that route probably for about 2 to 3 years. He kind of started from nothing and developed that route and pretty much, sustained himself and the family just selling breakfast burritos. And in 2011, probably the end of 2010, beginning of 2011, they opened up another restaurant. It was called Raul's Mexican Cafe, Fábrica de Tamales. And that one was in downtown Atwater. So, they were kind of introducing themselves again publicly to the community in Atwater. And they were there for about probably like a year. And unfortunately, in 2012, my dad got sick. He was diagnosed with leukemia, and it was a fast and harsh journey for him because he ended up passing away in April of 2012. So that's the reason for that one, that business shutting down. Actually, when he passed away, my sister and my mom were still trying to run it, but it was just too difficult, physically and emotionally. I think it was, the emotional toll of him being the one that opened it and him not being there. That toll was pretty heavy. So they shut it down. But still, my mom hadn't really worked, throughout her life. My dad was the main provider throughout, for our family. So she pretty much just worked in the restaurant that we had. So she needed to provide for herself now, right? Because my dad was gone. So she started doing caterings, again, for family and friends. And but this time, we all kind of just came together and said, okay, we're going to support my mom in trying to do these catering. So we started targeting bigger events, right? We started doing weddings and quinceañeras and things like that. By this time, I had gone to school and my sisters were older and things like that. So we started thinking a little bit different, right? We kind of took everything that we had learned throughout the other businesses and just started applying it. And we just started catering. And in 2015, we opened what now is Raul's Mexican Catering and Taqueria. And we opened behind a gas station, and that's kind of what we operate up. We have a kitchen in the back of a gas station in Atwater. And that's where we prepare delicious food. We're a taqueria, but we also offer, like catering service. We've been there since 2015. So that's where we're at now. We opened in 2015. We're in 2022, so we're into our 7th year. Yeah, still serving our customers, preparing delicious food, and that's kind of where we're at. That brings us to current time.
Yeah, well, a lot happened. I mean, I'm really sorry about your dad, and you guys have done a lot of great stuff with your business now, like you said, running it since 2015, and I've been seeing the growth since I met you, right? Which was, I think, was it like 2016, 2017, I think, if I remember my years correctly. And
I think so.
It's always really amazing to see like all the things that you guys are doing there, social media wise. I mean, I know I always get hungry anytime I open Instagram or Facebook and I see like something. I'm like, oh, if I'm ever over there, I'm gonna like stop by too. Sadly, I'm more on like the north side of my travels around 99, but I think it's just a really great thing that you guys are doing, and being more visual and doing more things that I think other spots don't do as much. And I think you really got to emphasize the food, take those good pictures, and just have all those things and unique ideas too. Like for instance, when you guys do the heart-shaped tacos that you guys do with the box, I think that's really creative. And I know it's a really great thing to be able to do, right? Especially as you are trying to think of like, what can I do for my Valentine, right? Something that's unique, something that you don't really see often. And I think your place is like the only place I've seen around the area that does that. So
yeah, and we've had to be very creative because resources, have been lacking since the beginning, right? We had to what they call like bootstrap it, right? We had to start. We literally started in 2015 with borrowed funds because we didn't have it, to start it. We started with borrowed equipment, right? And it was divine intervention. It was we're believers, and we believe that God has helped us since the beginning, right? Because we found the used equipment in one place, right? And we're limited in space, but I don't kid you, the space was exactly what we needed for the used equipment in that one spot, right? The grill that we needed was there. It was the perfect fit for the hood that was installed. The prep table that was used, was also the perfect fit for our setup. And the refrigerator, everything was used, right? And we found it pretty much all in one place, and it was just what we needed to open up shop in that small space, right? So we've had to be very, very creative, and just kind of like walk in faith, trusting, that we'll do our best, and that people will like it, and that things will be taken care of. We focus a lot on our customer. We're very big on service and making a difference, with the customers, even if they're just there, a couple minutes, right? We try and make sure that we're okay, so we can smile at them, so we can provide the best service for them, because we believe that can make a difference, that can make a difference in a person's life, in a person's day. Smiles, excellent service, and very fine food. That's probably the thing that you'll find on our website, right? Because that's what we try and do. And it goes back all the way to the beginning, because even before 1986, my parents worked in Los Tianguis of Mexico City, which is kind of like the farmers market of Mexico City. And they always focused on their product, like they used to set up their oranges and apples and pears and very nicely to where customers would be comfortable coming and looking and buying, and giving them a little shine so they would be presentable, and giving them a little extra at the end, right? We call it a pilon. It's just like the little courtesy at the end that you give them. So customer service is at the root of what we do, and of course, delicious food, so the customers can enjoy it. And not only that, but I mean, we were blessed, and I say we, as in my sisters and I, to have a nice upbringing with our family, and to a certain extent, we believe that the food we prepare, considering at the root, it's my parents, recipes, and my mom that still prepares it to a certain extent, right? And just being able to kind of share that with our customers, because this is the food that they eat at their dining table, right? This is the food that they eat for dinner. This is the food that they have at their wedding, at the birthday parties, and sometimes even whenever they're saying farewell to their family members, right? Because we've also served food at funerals, right? So we don't take it lightly. We don't think that we just prepare food and here you go. It's more of a, we believe that, we serve, we serve and we care about our customers because they allow us, to serve them. And we want to share a little bit of us with them, with the food that we prepare.
That's really good, man. Everything you just said right now, I feel like all the restaurants out there should have that same philosophy, right? But every now and then, I have gone to some places where I feel like that's not the case, right? So it's really good that you guys can say that, right? And that you can kind of distinguish yourself from others and that aspect. And I think it's the power of food, right? And having
Mm,
that recipe, having that food that you had when you were younger, right? And now being able to share that same experience that you had when you were younger with other people that are, experiencing, Mexican food maybe for the first time, or people who have always ate it, but they want to try something else, right? So it's just really great when you can have those recipes, and you could say that, hey, we've been making this food this way, and you might go to another spot and it's not going to be the same way, right? And I think that's one of the things that people who don't know Mexican food as much as we do, right, that
mm,
growing up eating it and all that, can't really distinguish it as much, right? But in reality, it's really there, right? And like I know I've gone to places where I can right away distinguish it. I'm like, oh, there's something different about this place too. But I think coincidentally, sometimes those places are the places that don't provide as great service, like you were mentioning earlier.
mhm.
And both of those things kind of sometimes go hand in hand, right? Because if you really pride yourself in your food, then you're
Mhm.
probably going to be providing a good service as well, right? Because
Yeah.
you know that you got the food there, you also have to have the service as well. And so it's great that you guys have both, great service and great food, because it's a really great thing to have. So it's always good to see that. So when you guys were trying to find a place to be at, like, how did you guys come across the gas station? Like, were you guys looking at different places, or how did that come about?
Yeah, well, we usually just, you kind of keep an eye open, right, to spots that may show up and things like that. And one of our family members told us about this one, and they said, like, hey, a kitchen just opened up here, like you guys can probably check it out and see what happens. And sure enough, we went to go talk to the owner of the store. Yeah, I pretty much just talked to them about, like, you know, the possibility of us working in there. And when he said yes, we were kind of like on a trial basis. He said, if things work out, I don't know how things went with the previous, tenant, but he was like, if things work out, we'll continue working together. And and sure enough, we're still there. It's just like any relationship, right? You got ups and downs and stuff like that, but we're not a a family or team that is trying to be advantageous over anything. So I think there's respect there between the landlord and us that's allowed us to be there like 7 years. So yeah, that's kind of how it went.
Yeah, that's good. And hey, I think being at a gas station is actually really great too, right? Because you get so many people coming by, right? And
Hmm.
I mean, let's be realistic, right? You might go to like an AMPM, and yeah, true, they have their own like AMPM brand food, but who's gonna prefer that over like authentic food, right? So I think it's really good that you guys are there, and that you guys give people an option to get Mexican food and not have to go somewhere else, right, around town to go look for something, and just get it right there from you guys. So
Yeah,
it's
and
it's
it's
it's a
it's
good
been
thing.
both, like, I guess you'd say, like a blessing and a struggle, right? Because it's
Hmm.
good because we've got the traffic that goes to the store and stuff like that, but at the same time we're inside the building, right?
Hmm.
And we do have some signage outside, but we still have to overcome the fact that we're not the main, like the main store. So that's one of the reasons why we've relied so much on social media, um, and to just kind of get the word out there, right? To let people know, that we're over here, that we're inside the gas station. Um, but yeah, it is good, because people are able to go in there, get their gas, and also get their food, get their dinner.
Yeah, it's our breakfast too, right? Because I know you guys always post the breakfast burritos
Yeah, a
and
lot of
other
people really
things.
like our breakfast burritos. Yeah.
So I know we talked about the taqueria right now, but I also want to talk about the catering aspect of the business too, right? So I know you guys are pretty busy. From what I remember a couple years ago, you would always tell me
Mhm.
there's always a catering going on in different places. But just tell us some of those catering stories. Like what are some places that you guys have gone to that have been memorable to you, like thus far?
Yeah. So catering, it's kind of unpredictable, right? Because you can only prepare so much, and just like any event, I'm sure you've been part of maybe like a quinceañera, wedding, or something like that, where things just change all of a sudden, right? Or the bride wants something different. And so I remember one time whenever we kind of had it all planned out, things were going according to plan. And, either the bride or the groom wanted to change the food setup. And this is like within maybe an hour and a half of us starting to serve. So we have to like rearrange our setup. It kind of throws everything off because, the modification is not part of the schedule. So, just trying to make it happen, within the time frame and still start serving on time. So it kind of goes from like everything going at according to plan to, just kind of get into high gear and start making modifications, resetups, and things like that. We did a wedding in Riverside once, and we were told about the wedding. We were told about the food that they wanted. We were told about the guests, but they never told us that we were going to be on a second floor. So we were making birria. So those pots of birria, they're big and they're heavy. And we're over there trying to figure out like how are we going to get these big pots of birria, up the stairs. And we also have a grill, right, that we need to warm up food and things like that. So our setup ended up being the grills. It was in a really nice building downtown. And we ended up having the grill on the alley. There was an alley next to the building, and pretty much heating up tortillas and, carrying them upstairs. And to get the pots up the stairs, we had to get help from guests, right? And pretty much carrying those pots step by step all the way up. So that was pretty brutal. That was pretty brutal. And so that's another story that I remember. Some of our learning stories, whenever we first started catering, everybody was kind of like fresh to the equipment and things like that. But we work with grills and propane tanks, right? Mm. So one of my sisters was moving the grill, and in the process of moving the grill, she pretty much dropped the tank over, right? Oh. And her thinking it's gas, propane, right? She's thinking that anything like that may cause an explosion. So the propane tank flips, and she pretty much dives under a table, thinking that we're gonna have like this mad explosion, right? And we're over there asking her like, "What are you doing? Like what's going on?" So that's pretty funny. We still get a crack out of that. With my sister diving under a table because a propane tank flipped over. But yeah, man, we actually, just overall, we've had some funny moments and some worrying moments, but it's actually been pretty nice. We've met some really nice people at the catering events. They're usually, pretty friendly. We have had, one or two, situations, but just like in everything, right? When you're serving people, you always have those customers that are confused or just, they're just customers. But overall, the experience has been very nice. We have repeat customers that still call us now. We have customers where we did their quinceañeras, but now we're going back and we've done their children's baptisms, things like that. So it's been nice.
Yeah, well, that's really nice. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure, with serving food, it's the nature, right, of just any place that serves food. But luckily, there's always more people that are going to have great things to say, right? There's just one or two people sometimes that you kind of have to, put up with a little bit, right? But hoping that, they give any mistake another chance. And that's what I always say, right? I'll go anywhere. If the food wasn't that great, I'll still give them another chance, right? Because everyone has bad days, right? Just something goes wrong or just something happened. And so it's always better just to say like, hey, just go back, like don't say anything, and then see how it is the second time or even a third time if if you need to, right? But it's good that you guys have those repeat customers and that they're always there.
Let the businesses know, let the business know, because sometimes they're not aware of it, right? They can do what they can do to make it better, and it's only for their own good, right? Some people will take it in a good way, some people will not, right? That's kind of how it goes with constructive criticism.
Yeah. Some people are just gonna make a big deal of it. I remember one time I was at a taqueria and they, I don't even know how this happened, right? But maybe it was too close to a tortilla, but the tie, in the tortilla bags, those like green ties that they put on, like a Guerrero bag of sorts, it was in my food.
Oh,
And yeah, it wasn't until I finished eating, I just kind of just told them like, hey, just so you guys know, if you guys were looking for this, and they were actually telling me like, oh, you know what, we were actually looking for that. That's so crazy. I
that's
was like,
funny.
it's all good. I just thought I'd let you guys know that there was this thing there.
That's funny. Just a little
So
cable in my meat. That's it.
yeah, it's just kind of. I was a little confused because I was chewing on it, right? I was like, oh,
Oh
what is
yeah.
this isn't me. But yeah, I took it on a good note, right? It's just like just letting you guys know like this was there. But luckily, then they were of course checking up on me, which is always great when you get that experience too. Yeah, but man, you guys having to carry something upstairs, like you guys should have had an elevator in that building. I'm surprised they didn't have one.
They didn't. I think it was they either didn't or they didn't have access to it. I think it was one of those like old school downtown buildings. So, or they just didn't tell us about it because we're like, is there an elevator? And they were like, no, the stairs is the only way up. So yeah, that was brutal. We still remember that one because it was. I mean, those old BG ollas are heavy, and that's why we had to go one by one step, right? Because we just had to kind of
Oh.
like carry it up like that. So yeah, that's one to remember for sure.
So nowadays, do you like whenever you go to like a customer, right, and they're telling you about the event, are you guys like, give me every single detail, where's it gonna be at, like all that, or
I guess if we get the feeling, that it's gonna be, that kind of event, we'll probably will ask them. Is it gonna be a first floor, second floor, things like that. We've learned to ask those kinds of questions if we get the feeling. It's so crazy how much your gut comes into play. If you get the feeling that it's gonna be something like that, then we'll ask the question. But no, definitely, we ask a whole lot more now than we did then.
yeah. If you guys were to ask for it now, like what would change? Like if you guys already knew ahead of time it's gonna be in the second floor.
Help, and then maybe reorganizing how we prepare. If
Mhm.
instead of doing like the big old villas de ollas de villa, maybe we'll like if we do have to prepare in the big ones, then we'll probably distribute among smaller ones. That
Mhm.
way they're not as heavy. So preparing things like that, right? And then also like we would have to think about warming up in a different way. The tortilla, so we wouldn't have to leave the grill in an alley, things like that. And a
Yeah.
lot of times, it was just maybe because we asked, do we have access to the kitchen? Does the hall have a kitchen? Can we work out of there? And they'll say, yeah, yes, it's available, and that's always much better, right? Because you've
Mhm.
got a location that's set up for food processing.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's always more ideal. You have a spot, and you don't have to be
Yeah.
outside and and deal with that. But I'm glad that you guys found a way still, right? That they're still there, and that you guys had guests that were like, hey, yeah, we'll help out because it's not an easy thing to do
Yeah,
that.
no, I mean, pretty much, once you're there, you have to figure it out because, the food has to get made and the food has to get served. So yeah, if that's one thing we kind of do is, we just need to figure it out, how are we going to do this? How are we going to modify? Because for sure people want their food.
Yeah. So one more thing I want to talk about too, because as we all know, right, in 2020, a lot of things changed, right? Lots of places were closing down and whatnot. But kind of walk us through like how was it to run the business in that year and even to now, right? Because I mean we're still not fully recovered, but I know catering wise, that it must have been impacted too. But how was it with the taqueria and catering? And did you guys already have some reservations and whatnot?
I think we had, a couple reservations that we had to cancel or were actually canceled because of the pandemic. It was just kind of like keeping an open ear and paying attention to what we had to do. I got to say that we were early to actually setting up our glass. I think it was well before everybody started setting up their glass. I was just we're family ran, right? So ultimately, it's my sisters, my mom that are there. So one of the things that we wanted to make sure that I wanted to make sure was, like how do we keep this, how do we keep it as safe as we can, right?
Mm.
So I remembered pretty much a sneeze guard that we had in Texas in the restaurant over there. So pretty much went to Lowe's, bought some plexiglass, and kind of like engineered some stands and screwed them into the counter, just like you see at many stores now. That was one of the first things that we did, just kind of creating that barrier. And I think getting the mask as soon as we could. We were quick to order some of those cloth masks that people were making. We started to make early on, and then we modified our hours. Until we kind of saw how this all played out. We stopped doing on-site catering, so that was a big hit for us because pretty much quinceañeras were gone, weddings were gone, anything on site were gone. So we relied heavily on those kinds of things. So we had to modify, our offering. So we shifted to takeout caterings, right? They were smaller for sure, right? Because people weren't having big gatherings. So we just had to offer, just family packages and a little bit bigger than family packages. And that's kind of how we had to shift that. And we did modify our hours to just kind of see how things were playing out. We opened a little later. And yeah, that's just, and then just kind of picking up or modifying or just increasing our cleaning routine, right? Making sure that we were sanitizing constantly, the equipment, being aware, if anybody, was sick and things like that. Unfortunately, we all pretty much stayed healthy throughout. And then as soon as we could, get, to a vaccine, especially because my mom being a little bit older, making sure that we were able to get in there. Fortunately, because we were a restaurant, we were able to get in, into getting a vaccine. I don't remember if it was like first or second round due to essential work, right? So yeah, that's how we had to modify, just fortunately for us, the blow may have been, we did take the blow on the catering side, but we've always been a takeout taqueria. We've always been a takeout restaurant, right? Full menu. It's just all to go. So, we just had to kind of continue doing that to try and compensate for the catering that weren't coming in. So those are some of the things that happened during that time.
So what would you say is the customer favorite that is ordered the most? What order?
The item?
Yeah.
It's probably our web burritos. Like a lot of people really like our web burritos. We have 3 different sauces. We have the salsa verde, salsa roja, and then we have our house sauce, which you call it the mallito sauce. It's kind of like a chipotle creamy sauce. A lot of people really like our web burrito.
That sounds good. A chipotle sauce. I don't think I've ever had that in a Mexican spot. Really so I need to. I need to have that too. And I know I'm gonna be stopping by the Taqueria sometime this year too. I'll be going out of Fresno for some soccer games, so I'll definitely make that a stop. Yeah,
that'll be cool.
So one last thing here before I let you go. I want to give you a time to give any shout outs to anyone listening that you'd like to shout out, and also if you want to share with us your social media, your website. I know it's not up as of this recording, but I think by the time we record, it might already be up. So let me give you this time to do all that.
Yeah. So I think, the shout out would probably be to the family because, it's family ran business, so I'm just one person of our family team. It's my mom and my 2 sisters and my 2 little nieces, and one of my aunts, pretty much that run the show, right? And shout out to them because they're the ones that make it happen every day, with the preparation, with the buying, with the serving of the customers and things like that. They've transformed, like I said, it all began out of need, right? My mom needing to provide for herself after my dad's passing. And the women they are today, is nothing compared to the women they were then, right? They've developed, they've transformed, they turned into businesswomen and into leaders. And you talk to them now and they'll fire you up, they'll talk to you, they'll encourage you and tell you that you can do it, So a shout out to them because they're really the ones that make it happen, right? It's all a team effort, because we all contribute to the business in a unique way, right? But a shout out to them, because they're awesome. And then a shout out to our customers, because they continue to come to us and we love to serve them. And to the Atwater community, We've been a part of them as a business for the last 7 years. Um, Part of them as a family, for the last, probably like 14 years, 14, 15 years. And then just to the area as a whole, Merced and Livingston and everybody around. The 209, because we have served up and down the valley and even outside of the valley, anywhere from like Fresno to Manteca to Riverside. Those are just the places where we've had the opportunity to serve. Yeah, just a lot of thanks, to our customers and to the community. And thanks to you, for having us on your podcast.
Yeah, no, thank you for being on too. And like I said, right, I mean, you guys have gone through a lot, but it's just always really amazing to see how much you guys have done in these last 7 years, right, with the growth of the business, and how much more you guys will continue to do. And it's always inspiring when you hear of a business that's, always been family run, right? Because you go to other spots and, they start to hire other people. And I think, not that there's an issue, right, when you start hiring other people, but it becomes a little bit tougher sometimes to keep that same, like, family philosophy, right? Because, I don't have experience myself working for like a family business, but I can only imagine if you work for a business that belongs to your family, that, you kind of value it a little bit more, right? And you kind of want to give an extra of yourself because, it's kind of your thing, right? And you want you guys to look good. So I think it's really great that you guys have kind of kept it that way, and that everyone knows just how much this business means to everyone, and just how you guys are still going and whatnot. So
yeah, and that's part of our values, because we've also had in the process, we've had people that weren't necessarily family, but they become like family, right? Because of just the way we work and the way we, I guess you could say, lead them. And because we're not only just working, right? We believe that we're I guess you could say like mentoring. The people that work with us, somehow they leave different, right? And that just like the difference we want to make through our food with our customers, we also want to make with our teams, right? So that'll be, as we grow, because we do have the desire to grow, right? Those are the values that we have at our foundation, right? That we want, our team to be not one that just works for us, right? But that grows with us, right? The people that can, because everybody, wants to grow. That's part of our desire as humans, right? So that's kind of what we try and share with the people that work with us. So yeah, man, we actually, whenever, if you go through our social media, you'll see that a lot of our posts say like, Happy Tuesday, family and friends, because that's just how we see our guests, our customers, right, as family and friends.
Yeah, and that's really great. I mean, that's how every business should see their customers, and I'm really glad that you guys have that philosophy. And it just goes to show, right? Like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, that you guys have quite a following, especially on Facebook, like over 4,000 likes, and at least I could think of all the Mexican spots here in the area, and I don't think there's anyone that even has 1,000, if I remember just correctly too. And some of them don't even have a social media page too. So you guys already have a lead in that perspective, right? That you guys are more visible on there versus others. And so it's great. And yeah, keep up the posts, because like I said, I want to keep getting hungry every day. And
yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. So
and taking those good pictures.
Yeah, and like I said, eventually I'm gonna make it out there and stop by a couple of times. And if I ever go for any other reason down 99 over to LA, I'll be sure to stop by at some point, and get some pictures of the food there, so I can actually have my own Raul's Mexican spot
yeah,
pictures
for sure.
too.
That'd be good, really good, Luis. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, Raul, it was really great talking to you. I'm really glad that, we were all able to hear your story, and that, you're able to also kind of invite people to check you guys out as well, especially again, as they're up and down 99, whether they're going north or south. If you pass by Atwater, check them out. I feel like you guys are really conveniently located. It's not too far of a drive. I mean, the couple times I've been there, it's been a pretty decent drive. There's a street that takes you right there, and and you're back on the freeway. So always great.
Yeah. And I'll share our handles or our website. It's RaulsMexicanCatering.com. And then you guys just search in Facebook, Raul's Mexican Catering and Taqueria. You guys will probably pop up. Same thing in Google to get directions. Just punch in Raul's Catering or Raul's Mexican Catering and Taqueria, and we should pop up.
Awesome. And also Instagram too, right? Because that's right.
We also have an Instagram. Yeah. And I believe that one is Raul's Taqueria or Raul's MXN Catering.
Awesome. Great. Well, once again, thank you, Raul. It was really great talking to you. And eventually I'll be doing live shows too. And maybe one day we could do a live show and have you actually like show us your place and anything you guys are cooking, or even a video of like, something being made on there. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, for sure, Luis. And thank you so much again for having us on.
Well, once again, thank you so much to Raul for being on the show tonight. It was really inspirational to hear just how much the business has evolved, and really the fact that, he has dreams of continuing to grow the business and the family support there as well. I know within a couple of years, maybe even sooner, they'll probably be moving out of their current location to another restaurant location, and, the business will just continue to grow on from there. So again, if you are in the area at Atwater, if you are from the area, highly recommend that you go check them out. You can find them at 2775 North Winton Way in Atwater. They are inside the Chevron that is there. So go check them out. And their hours are actually 9 to 2 p.m. and 5 to 8 p.m. So if you're in the area, again, great food. I've been there a couple of times myself, and I can tell you it's really awesome. So check them out, and also follow them on their social media pages so you can see all the amazing food that they have there to share as well. Well, just another reminder to everyone, if you are not subscribed to the show yet, then please subscribe to the show wherever you're listening to it right now. Different platforms have different options for subscription. Some of them will give you notifications as well. So if you do have that, I highly recommend that you activate that so you find out when a new episode is posted. Another option is you can follow us on social media at the 209 Journey on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, so you can actually find out when I post new episodes there. I might be doing new live shows as well on social media, so just keep an eye out for that. I do live shows for the other podcasts that I do, so there is a possibility that I might be doing a live show here within the next 1 to 2 months, possibly. So if you want to find out about that, just go follow the social media page and you'll hear more details. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening to the show tonight. If you can, please share it with a friend on any social media platforms. That would be amazing, and that would really help us grow the show a lot. Have a great morning or night, everyone, and we'll see you next week here on the 209 Journey podcast.